3A, a couple of SAC teams hooking up. Bishop Luers taking on Concordia. My, how the tables have turned in one season. Last year, this would have been a romp for the cadets. David Morrison now at Ball State. Luers, of course, had a really rough regular season, picked it up a little bit in the postseason. Now, especially after the regular season meeting where the Knights won 52-27, I think it's safe to say Luers is going to be the heavy favorite here.
Yeah, Luers' offense continues to roll, I think, and you just look at it and say, can Concordia do enough that they didn't do in the first game to slow that offense down? You really look at it and you don't know. Good thing was Concordia put up some decent points at 27. So, if they can score some more points and kind of trade scores with Luers, maybe they can stay in it. That Concordia offense is capable of putting up points, but I don't see them being able to keep Luers off the scoreboard.
Coming into the season with good reason, the two names on the Knights roster getting the most attention, Noah Wazinski, Austin Mack. They've backed it up. We've seen other players really establish themselves. C.J. McCarter, who is just an animal in the backfield, and then Tyrell Jemison on the other side, lining up opposite of Austin Mack. This is an offense that even if you're shutting down Mack, you have a lot of weapons to deal with.
Yeah, Coach Lindsay told me Friday night about Terrell Johnson. He says at times this year he has been the best player on the field. Regardless of who's on the, they were playing Snyder. He said, all the talent on that field, and he was the best talent on the field in a lot of that game. So, Terrell Johnson, phenomenal talent. We've seen him on the basketball court, just quick and really quick first step and fast, and he's just been able to use that as a wide receiver for Luers to really be a weapon opposite of Austin Mack.
I think the best matchup for area teams in 3A, maybe the best matchup, period, out of all classes for teams from our region. Heritage at West Noble. Yeah. West Noble's coming off of its first conference championship in nearly a decade. Heritage 6-3. Only losses were to New Haven, Leo, and Concordia. How do you see this one playing out?
It's so tough to judge Heritage this year, because when their offense is clicking and the symmetry is good, they can put up some points and they're really dangerous. Can they go to West Noble and do that? And I'm not sure. I really don't know because I think Heritage kind of at times has stumbled in big games a little bit. But I think it's promising. I think they're a senior-dominated group at Heritage, and I think they're going to be able to get it going, and I think they're going up to West Noble and winning.
West Noble, meanwhile, has won 5 of 6 coming in. That only loss was a 7-6 contest against Churubusco. While you want to be playing your best football coming in, I'm sure Monty Mahorter has got to be saying, that loss 2 weeks ago, probably not a bad thing, kind of wakes the team up a little bit before the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure, and that's a Busco team that's won 5 straight and really rolling right now. So, and Heritage kind of had the same thing playing Concordia a couple weeks ago, is kind of maybe a little gut check late in the season that really I think coaches, they don't necessarily want to see, but they like to get it because they can kind of refocus the guys before the playoffs.
One other 3A matchup to get to, and we mentioned Belmont coming off that win over East Noble. They're taking on a Whitco team at home. That could be a tough matchup for Belmont.
Yes, it could. And I think Belmont is that NHC team that we really talked the least amount about this year because we talked about just how stacked the top part is, and Columbia City and DeKalb have shown signs of growth in the program. And Belmont, over there with Larry Getz has just been a solid program. They were going to catch somebody looking past them, and they did last week with East Noble. And a lot of confidence going on with the Braves right now. That is going to be a tough matchup with Whitco. But I think Belmont can surprise a couple more teams here in the postseason.
In 2A, Woodland visits Churubusco. Both teams 6-3. One thing's for sure. There'll be less than 10 total passes in the game. The whole thing will take 90 minutes to play. But really, you can almost flip a coin as to who's going to come out on top and advance to the next round in this one.
I mentioned Busco, and Busco's kind of had a chip on their shoulder the last month or so. And, they started off slow, and everybody's going, what's going on with Churubusco? But they really turned it on with 5 straight wins, some quality wins, too, in there. You mentioned the West Noble victory, the 7-6. And this is a team, like you mentioned, it's going to win on the ground. It's going to win with defense. And Woodland is kind of a team that the last couple of weeks we're calling, well, what's going on? They lost to South Adams. They had to come back to beat Adams Central. And I think teams are starting to figure them out offensively. Okay, we're gonna focus on stopping the two-headed monster at running back, and we're gonna make them beat us vertically. And Woodland has had trouble with that. So we'll see. Woodland's they'll come to play in this game, and I think they'll be ready. But Busco, I think, just the momentum right now for Busco is it's rolling right now.
Well, the Eagles, as you said, come in playing excellent football. They've won 5 straight. I should mention each of the last 2 weeks I've picked against them in the new Sentinel picks, and the Churubusco fans are like no other fan base on social media. They have let me know each of the last couple weeks. We see it on the highlights, but they got to make sure that they're aware Joe Allen, you were wrong on the Eagles, and I will admit it. 5-0 in their last 5 coming in. They're playing good football. Central Noble at Eastside. The Blazers have been absolutely rolling teams as of late, 8-1. Do you see any way that they're not moving on to the next round?
I don't think so. I'd really love to see Eastside play a really solid regional opponent because P.J. Dean has just been putting up crazy numbers all year. But a lot of people just have not paid attention to him just because they're in NECC. They don't play any area teams. But that's a team that I'm really interested to watch this postseason to really see if they can continue the dominance they had in the regular season into the playoffs.
It's always fun when you get rematches in sectional play from the regular season. We have already touched on a couple. You get another one in 1A. South Adams visits Adams Central. The regular season matchup was fantastic. AC won that one 21-14 in overtime. This is all setting up to be a classic showdown in the first round of sectional play.
Yeah, and South Adams beat them last year in the playoffs 14-13 to knock them out. So, and that was a South Adams team that went on a little run last year in the playoffs. So I think both teams have picked up a lot of momentum in the second half of the year, really kind of cleaned up some things from the first half of the year. You know, South Adams beats Woodland. Adams Central takes Woodland to the brink. So those are two teams kind of on the rise, and I think that's kind of a toss-up game for me right now.
Both teams playing good football right now. South Adams was 3-6 during the regular season, but 2 of those 3 wins have come in the final month of the regular season. As you mentioned, Adams Central has won 3 of their last 4, just that 1-point loss to Woodland. Last 1A game, Southern Wells visits North Miami. I think we can say Southern Wells probably going to take the game. They played good football.
Southern Wells rules. North Miami's had some decent years in the past, but not this year. Southern Wells should be fine.
So, of course, the big question at this time of year is who's going to make that trip down to Indianapolis and play for a state championship. We won't touch on 5A because they open up next week. They have that bye. Of the classes that we've touched on, 6A, 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A, is there one team that you think has the best chance out of all the ones that we've talked about of getting down to Lucas Oil Stadium?
Bishop Luers, I think, jumps out right now just because the way they're playing. 3A North isn't particularly deep. Andrean's the top team in the state, and they'll run into them before they get to Lucas Oil. Other than that, maybe West Lafayette can give them a game, but I just think that team right now, the defense has come along. That defensive line is strong. The defensive backfield is strong, not to mention the offense. So right now, if I got to pick a team, I'm going with Bishop Luers.
Do you think in some ways the regular season has reinstilled the swagger? Because prior to last season, it had been such a great run for the Knights. Regardless of what happened during the regular season, you always said, once you get to the postseason, you know that Bishop Luers is going to go on a run. And they just piled up the state championships. Do you think the swagger's back?
I think so. I don't underestimate the fact that kids, particularly last year, those kids were embarrassed to go 0-9 in the regular season. They see all those banners in that gym, and they say, we're not going to be the group that doesn't get down to Lucas Oil Stadium. So a lot of those guys are juniors, but the seniors in particular are saying, we went through last year, and it was rough, and this year we're going to make sure we take this program back to where it usually is on Thanksgiving weekend down at Lucas Oil Stadium. So we talked a lot about Wayne coming back and winning the SAC and how big that was for them, but you don't discount Luers from going winless last year to winning the SAC this year. Really impressive.
One of the best times a year. One and done for high school football. All gets started on Friday. Justin, thanks so much for being in. You can read his work all week long in the News Sentinel and on newssentinel.com. And, of course, we'll have you covered on News Channel 15 leading up to another edition of the Highlight Zone this coming Friday. We'll see you next week.